On today's episode of Bite Sized, we are talking about Twilight scene number 8. For those of you watching along at home, that is from 10 minutes and 20 seconds to 11 minutes 35. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome to Bite Sized, a Twilight movie review podcast where I, your host, Ben Hebert, am watching the Twilight movies one scene at a time in chronological order with a different guest every week. It's probably the worst way to watch Twilight, and I'm slowly coming to regret it more and more as time goes on. Joining me today, we have a comedian, a writer, a tarot card reader, a student of life. Let's see if you were taking notes in class today. Phylicia McLeod.
Yes.
Welcome
hello.
to Bite Size.
Thank you so much for having me.
Phylicia, how's it going?
Pretty good. I'm pretty sure when you were introducing me, people already guessed who I was based off of the description.
Well, I mean, student of life, there's only so many of those out there.
Not a lot of people are learning.
No,
and that's
true.
What I want more people to do.
A lot of people, when they're done with school, they just stop learning. And you know what they say? When you start... You know what they say. I'm going to try this again. Don't edit anything out. Leave all of this in. You know what they say. When you stop learning, you start dying.
And that is the truth.
And that's why you're going to live forever.
And that's why I'm learning every day.
Was that worth it?
It was worth it.
Okay, good. Phylicia, I'm going to start off this interview the way I start every interview on this show. That's by asking you, what is your history with the Twilight franchise?
My history is I was up to date. I was watching it as it was coming out.
Did you read the books?
I didn't read the books, though.
Interesting.
Yeah. When I said I was watching as it was coming out, is I started the second movie in the theater and then went back and watched the first one, which I was really glad that I didn't see the first one because I wouldn't have continued on.
Really?
Yeah.
You saw New Moon, and that was a hook. New
that
Moon,
hooked me.
My favorite of the movies. Spoiler alert. Why? I guess is a great way to phrase that. But what was it about New Moon that made you think I got to go back and catch up?
I think it was just like it was warmer. I don't know. I just was really interested in their stories.
Warmer? How so?
The shot, the way the first one shot, it feels a little bit harsher.
Okay.
I don't know
in what way specifically?
In just color wise.
Oh,
Not
really?
In story. Story they had me.
Phylicia, you know what that is?
What is that?
That's the Blue Bell. Congratulations. This is episode 8 of the podcast. You are the 7th guest to mention how weird the color is in this movie.
Could not get past it.
Yeah, everything's super blue, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, and I thought I was going crazy. And I was like, what? That was a choice.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't continue on with it because I would have stopped.
Just like I chose to ask you questions to lead you to say the word blue or color so that I could ring my dumb little bell.
I'm glad you did. And I'm glad that
really
I passed.
I am. Our previous guest, our mutual friend Lexi, didn't mention it, and I didn't get to ring the bell. And I'm mad about it.
How could Lex not see that?
Honestly, we had so many other things to talk about. It kind of
fair.
wasn't necessary. But you watched all the movies. You saw New Moon. You saw Twilight.
Yes.
Did not like it?
I didn't like it as much as the second one.
But enough to say, gotta watch 3, 4, 5.
I gotta watch it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I continued on, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember how the last one ended. I'm kind of like, is there room for more? Is what I was thinking.
There might be. Recently, just a few months ago, there was announced that some sort of Twilight TV show is in early production.
TV show.
Yeah, we don't know if it's a reboot. We don't know if it's a new story.
Okay. Because I watch Vampire Diaries,
Yeah.
so I'm who they would be marketing to, and I
You're
would.
super up on vampires then.
I gotta stay up with my vamps. They've
Okay.
been around for a long time, so I have to
Gotta stay up with my vamps. Ooh, man. That's a wonderful turn of phrase.
You gotta keep up. You gotta know what's happening in the city. You know,
In the city of vamps. Is Twilight something you have continued to... Have you watched it, since theaters? Is it something you return to ever?
it isn't. And
Okay.
and after watching the clip, I wondered why not go back and see it
Yeah.
and maybe watch it backwards.
Okay.
Or I don't know. Who knows? Watch it some way.
You have taken a lot of interesting approaches to Twilight just throughout your life, and you really brought that to bear today.
Yeah.
Because when you walked into my apartment where we record, you told me that you watched the scene, this minute and 15 seconds.
Yes.
First, no sound. While taking notes?
I took notes, no sound. I just vibes. And then I watched it fully with sound, with no notes.
Okay.
Because I had no notes for what they did.
How can you? It's perfect. What critiques could you have? Really, I got to say, of all the scenes to watch without sound, this one, you can get away with that pretty easily.
You can't, because you know exactly what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
For those of you who did not go back and watch the scene along with us, A, you're not getting the full experience.
You must.
You got to get that listener engagement. Hold on, there's a cat yelling. For the listener, the cat was screaming because she was playing with a cough drop that got under the bathroom rug, and someone had to get it out from under the bathroom rug.
That's really similar to how I live my life, too. I just cry until someone helps me.
And then do you almost trip them and almost kill them as soon as they're done helping you?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to Twilight. This is the first scene in biology class.
Yes.
I think it's Mike and Bella walk in. He says, "Mr. Molina," and then just sort of points at Bella, abandons her.
And just runs off. I'm pretty sure he was supposed to do some
bounces.
type of connection to be like, this is this, unless he already know.
You would think, and you'd think that, like, he's been crushing on Bella the whole movie. You'd think he'd try to, like, I don't know, engage with her more, but he just walks away.
Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he was like, I don't know how to really introduce her without being like, this is my girlfriend, you know?
Maybe he just really loves biology.
Maybe he does. I was interested too, because that's actually, I wrote down what the teacher wrote down on the board.
We're going to get into some flatworms.
Perfect.
Let's finish the overview of this scene, though, because she sits down, the only empty spot, the only person in the class without a lab partner. It's Edward Cullen, of course.
It's got to be Edward.
She sits down, they look at some worms, the bell rings, he runs away. That's just sort of the overhead view. Let's get into the nitty-gritty now. Because despite the fact that basically nothing happens in this scene, it's rich.
I'm going to say everything happens.
A lot happens in this scene, right?
It does. And it was shocking because I was like, what can a minute and 15 seconds bring? Mm-hmm. And it brought us a different senses. It paid attention to different senses for us.
Yeah. Oh, man. Let's just run them down one by one. Let's start with the sense of smell, because that's my just big first impression.
Huge.
Bella steps in front of what I would call an industrial fan.
Industrial oscillating fan.
Not even oscillating. That's
it wasn't?
Thing. No, it's supposed to be oscillating. Phylicia, we're going to get into this. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it is too big and too loud to be in a classroom.
And especially like a science classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't they have something? I feel like that would be just disturbing.
Don't they have air conditioning? Mr. Molina would not be heard over that fan.
There's no way.
Whoever is sitting directly in front of it would just get blasted. And at a certain point, you see that because the fan is supposed to be oscillating. It's not.
Then how did it blow up the paper like that?
That's why I say it's supposed to be oscillating. In the fiction of the film, it is. I checked. I went frame by frame. It did not oscillate at any point. But at some point, yes, it does. It blows so hard that if his hand was not on that paper, it would have flown off the desk.
Flew off, and there's no way.
No.
There's no way a regular fan would have done that. So
this is a disruptive fan. I am immediately just out of the fiction of the film. My suspension of disbelief is completely gone.
Especially because the way they're all dressed, it's not like they're dressed like it is hot summer. It is like probably spring.
They're wearing hoodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the fan so rough for?
I don't know what it's for in the fiction of the movie, but for us, the viewer, it's there. And I can't believe what I'm about to say, so that when Bella steps in front of it, it blows her smell directly at Edward.
I wish I was in the writer's room to be like, and how do they first meet? You know?
I have to imagine this is in the books. This is probably in the book. That she steps in front of a fan. Because smell is a surprisingly important sense in the Twilight movies.
That is true.
I can't imagine being the writer of this movie and thinking, well, now we have to make him smell her in a way that's not weird and makes sense.
How would it make sense? Or she could have sat by him and that would have been the reason why, you know?
Yeah.
But we really wanted that extra.
We wanted it has to be in the book, right? I can't think of any other way to justify this.
But I can't imagine what they would have written Like, they wouldn't have been like, she steps in front of a fan.
No one would have
That'd
come
be
up
wild.
with that,
Yeah.
except for Stephanie Meyer. Like,
Which we thank you. Yeah.
right, that's the kind of thing you can get away with in a book. But when you think about it in a movie and you have to actually block out Kristen Stewart stepping in front of this giant, too big, too powerful fan, it falls apart immediately. But we got it.
I believed it.
Yeah. And I think what's even weirder is that Bella knows. Because when she sits down, he sort of avoids her.
Yeah.
And she gives herself like a little
She
smell check.
smells. Yeah. I would have been like, is there a problem?
Yeah. Or at least hello.
Hello.
Right.
Yeah. But then they would both stare at each other from time to time.
He stares at her a lot.
And that... scary.
Yeah.
I was like, what could you say? You're new to the school, you sit down, you don't really want to be here, and then there's some vampire.
You don't even know he's a vampire. You just know he's a guy with a big leather bracelet, which is a red flag. It has some sort of coat of arms on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I think in Daywalk.
He stares at her so much that you'd think Mr. Molina at some point's got to be like, Edward, please stop.
Truly. I would have been like, do you need something?
Yeah.
Focus up.
And after class, be like, hey, Bella, you okay?
Because that didn't look okay. But then she would like glance at him, and I'm trying to remember if he turned away or if he still continued to look.
When the fan blows and the Bella smell hits Edward, he makes an incredible series of faces that podcast is an audio medium. We cannot show you his reactions, but we're going to take it upon ourselves to describe the faces that he makes throughout this minute.
And I feel like the first one was like, it was shock. It was as if a strong lemon would make me react that way. So maybe there's like a lemon in the front of the smell. Yeah. I feel like there's a scientific way to say that, but I'm just going to say
citrus, maybe
citrus,
very citrus forward.
Citrus forward, and just strong because it was just such a strong first capture. Yeah,
clearly he doesn't smell his other classmates this way,
and he has to unless.
So is it pheromones?
It must be because for a second I got confused and I was like, oh yeah, because she's imprinted, but then that was.
No, that's a werewolf thing.
That's the werewolf thing.
Yeah, we're 5 movies away from that.
Yeah, a whole bunch of minutes.
Oh, good God. We'll get to that in about 2028, I think.
But then why?
Really, what I'd been thinking of this whole time is that he wants to eat her, and she smells so appetizing. But it literally just occurred to me in this chair, why wouldn't every other human want to do that? So it's got to be like a pheromone thing, right?
It must be because... You know, the teacher looked delicious. So, like, he would have ate the teacher. He
looking like a snack.
Teacher's looking like a snack. So that would be the first, he would have got a whiff of that
walked in front of
time.
that giant fan.
Everybody had to. It was too big.
Right.
So it must be a pheromone thing.
I have in my notes that the face he makes, he looks like he's trying to hold back throw up and an orgasm at the same time. It's this insane, like...
It's just, yeah.
It's a crazy mix of emotions of disgust and attraction and panic.
And I wish they would have carried this through the entire series.
Yeah.
Of the smell being that much for him.
They kind of do. Like we stumbled upon Breaking Dawn Part 2.
As you do.
Yeah. Honestly, the Twilight movies are hard to miss if you have YouTube TV. They're always going to be on, like, I'm pretty sure once a month Freeform does a marathon.
And I
something.
love Freeform.
Thank God for Freeform. R.I.P. ABC Family.
Dang.
They do get into more when Bella becomes a vampire. She talks a lot about how everything smells different. And there's a lot of talk about how the werewolves apparently smell bad to the vampires.
Okay.
All your senses when you're a vampire are heightened, and for some reason the one they talk about the most is smell.
The smell.
Yeah.
Which I guess they couldn't really talk about taste because they're just like namming down on blood.
I guess.
And I don't know how you could spice blood up.
It's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Yes.
Speaking of a lot, there's a lot of taxidermy in this classroom. There's an armadillo. There's several bird skeletons. Did you... in your high school experience, see this many Did you have a
We had
classroom
none.
like this?
We
No.
had a total of 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a reasonable number to have.
I think maybe we had fish.
Okay.
Can't even really remember.
Like a live tank of fish.
Like a live tank of fish.
Not
No.
a dozen stuffed animals. And not like toy stuff, like...
No. The only time, like, there was 2 times where we had a frog one time for dissecting and a chicken leg, which they just got from a Jewel-Lasco.
Okay, hold on now.
So it's... It was wild because
A
it was
chicken
like
leg?
it was like in a packet of other chicken legs and just like taking it out and putting it on.
And then I assume you cooked it and ate it after.
No.
That's what I would have done.
No, we just dissected it and everyone's like, it smells.
Where
and I'm
did you
like,
go to high school?
I'm Muskego High School in Wisconsin.
Okay, not a lot going on in Wisconsin.
We had a lot of Piggly Wigglies. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But not a lot of places to get things to dissect.
Taxidermy animals.
Or
I
taxidermy
guess.
animals. And what's wild is I didn't realize those animals until we watched it just before.
Really?
This. I was so focused on what Edward and Bella were giving us.
Mm-hmm.
And the fan. So I didn't and the flatworms. So I didn't really have much more space.
So then you didn't have thoughts about the owl.
Was that at the end?
No, the owl is there the whole time, and it's positioned right behind Edward with these big white wings that, like, are they trying to make him look like an angel?
Wow.
Is
touched
that
by
some
an angel.
sort of, like, symbolism, imagery they're playing with here? Because if they are, it is not subtle at all. Apparently subtle enough for you to miss it, though. No offense.
I just imagine him as an angel.
Okay.
And now
You
I know
think
why.
He always has those wings.
Now that I think about it, I can't imagine him without those wings. No, I did not realize how many animals were around that space. And I was like,
It's truly
what school
crazy.
is this?
It makes me wonder what came first. Like, because this is clearly filmed at an actual high school. So did they just find a room with a bunch of animals and say, yeah, we can do that?
This is
or
it.
like, did some set director, some designer say, we need armadillos, we need a big ass owl?
How will we know it's a science class if it's not there? If they're not like in the background?
They are looking at worms. And maybe now's a good time to get into worms. They're talking about planaria, aka
Planaria.
flatworms. Did you learn anything about flatworms?
During the scene, no.
Okay. Did you do your own
During
research
my
on
research,
flatworms?
yes.
Okay.
I learned that there are black, brown, and white worms.
Okay.
And which ones are dangerous? The white ones are dangerous to shrimp eggs and baby shrimp.
Okay.
And then the black and brown ones leave a toxin in their like a slime trail.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of an odd choice, planaria. It makes you wonder why they did this. Is there some sort of larger connection?
Ooh.
Are they trying to make a statement? Is one of them supposed to be the flatworm?
I feel like this had nothing to do with it.
Mosquitoes would be a little too on the nose. I
That's
think
true.
Anything that sort of drinks blood like that.
Like a bat,
you're
yeah.
right. A bat would be way too, but honestly, would be kind of perfect.
It'd be hilarious.
But, like mosquitoes would be a little too perfect.
Yeah.
But bats would be like over the top. I would love it if they just sat down and started talking about bats in this vampire movie.
Especially because it was just 2 seconds of him talking about it. So I
Yeah.
think it would have really added to the scene.
Again, a really elaborate drawing of a flatworm that makes you wonder, did the classroom already have this? And they just said, cool, worms, we roll.
They must have. It must have been already written on the board and they were like, we got to use whatever's there.
I guess it is elaborate. It's labeled. They're talking about reproduction.
I learned nothing about, they were like pointed out the worm penis.
They did.
I
I also noticed. I'm pretty sure this is the only instance of the word penis in the Twilight movies.
Yeah.
It's written on the whiteboard, and I just want to, I need to go frame by frame with you for a second.
If we could, please.
Because this is hilarious, and God, I hope it was intentional. I need you to keep your eye on the word penis and watch this dissolve. Watch this fade.
Penis.
It's right next to Edward's head.
Wow. Penis on Edward's head.
I don't know what that means, but I hope to God someone was in the editing booth like,
This.
no one's ever going to notice. It's a little joke for me, though.
And they gave it to us.
Yeah. But then also, if you see there on Bella, it says ovary.
What?
So it does get weirdly, like,
That's wild.
Is that foreshadowing that they are going to reproduce just like the flatworms do?
Because do flatworms reproduce human with vampire?
Yeah, they do. No, I actually looked this up. Hold on. And I don't know how you missed this in your flatworm research.
I Googled once.
But flatworms are also famous. They reproduce through something called penis fencing.
Penis fencing.
Yeah. I don't know how
Which
much
is
we
what
want to talk
vampires
about this, but
I just want to know, because when I think of fencing,
yeah.
what is the little baton? What is this?
Is the sword? Yeah, the baton. You know how fencers conduct an orchestra?
Why would penises fight like swords?
Well, if we want to get here, let me again use this diagram on the whiteboard. As you can see, one flatworm, I don't know, there's probably scientific words for this, but you got just everything you need for reproduction in the same animal. And
on different parts of the body.
Yeah. And so they basically fight to determine who will impregnate whom.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is in a movie for kids.
I just still...
And so this brings me back to my question.
Anything else?
They could have done literally anything else. And this is the biology lesson we're getting.
They could have just wrote biology.
They didn't have to do anything.
They really didn't. We would have let them get away with anything. And they knew that, which is why they did this.
They picked arguably the worst biology lesson.
I don't think I ever learned about flatworms until I watched this movie.
No, I don't either. And I don't know why I would have. And I don't know why anyone would.
There's no reason.
It's another one of those things that has to be in the book, because otherwise it either has to be in the book or it is a very elaborate prank on whoever set up on the part of whoever set up this classroom.
Well, now I have to read the book to see what pieces were actually from the book and what pieces did they create to
honestly,
make this world.
Me too, because there's just so much detail in this one scene that makes no sense at all.
I wrote, what are we learning?
Yeah, let's go over. I don't know if we've touched into your notes. I was going to ask one question and then go to your notes, and then we just blew through everything I had to talk about. So let's talk about your notes. What did you see in this scene?
When I wrote the notes with no sound, just vibes.
What was that like? What was the vibes you picked up on first watch, no sound?
The vibes I got, I said, classic new student. Then she hits her mark and the wind flows through the fan. Mm-hmm. Oops, she's stinky. Have you ever been so stinky that you made someone quiver? What are they learning? Planaria. And then I wrote about how dangerous they are. Mm-hmm. And then her looking at the teacher and him looking at her. Romance.
I gotta say, this scene was a little bit relatable because I am also constantly worried that I'm stinky. I'm doing it right now, actually.
Same.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're in that boat together. I can't smell you for what it's worth.
I can't smell you either.
I gotta say, I've been going to the dentist a lot recently.
Ooh.
And it's a long-ish walk to the dentist. It's a couple miles, which is like, I could wait for the train. But I usually just walk because why not? Yeah. And the last 2 times I've gone to the dentist, I've gotten about halfway there and realized I did not put on deodorant before I left the apartment.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Bella just giving her smell check, I thought, #relatable, because I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Because I'm like, I must smell.
Man, we're just like Bella.
Well, who's that Edward? Who's that scary person just waiting to feel our pheromones?
I don't know, but can you imagine every time you've been self-conscious about smell, odds are no one can smell you. No one
can. Yeah.
But there is one guy who absolutely can smell you. That's a nightmare.
That is scary. Or is it a connection because really he loves her, you know?
Yeah, it is. And he chooses the worst way to express that.
I mean, he didn't try to make it seem like he could smell her.
No.
You know, like he didn't try and hold back.
He does not play it cool at all.
Except for maybe when he slid the little worm juice. What was that next to them?
I think that was an actual flatworm that they look at, I guess. I don't know. It's in a small cup, but he slides it over it. Here, I'll use the bell to demonstrate how he slides it over. He doesn't pick it up. he doesn't even bother extending his finger. His fingers are like curled up, and he sort of uses his knuckles to slide, like he doesn't want to get any part of his body close to her.
And that's messed up. That's
not a great way to welcome a new classmate.
No. And had she already seen him before? Or is this the first time they're seeing each other?
This is the second time she's seeing him. The first time was in the last episode when they walk into the lunchroom.
Okay. So she already probably had her eyes set to be like, who's this cute,
mysterious
man? Yeah.
Right. The whole last episode was about was just Anna Kendrick telling Bella how, oh yeah, they're weird, but also hot.
Yeah.
And then Edward seeing her, and clearly something's going on there. And so this is just
that must be traumatic for her to be like, man, I smell so bad.
Yeah.
He doesn't even want to breathe around me.
Right. I'm new in this town. I'm new in this school. And one of the hot, cool kids hates me.
Yeah. But he stares at me. Yeah.
Yeah. He stares at me, but also wants nothing to do with me. And that's rough, especially when you're in high school.
Correct.
Sort of at peak self-conscious.
Worst time to happen. But also, he was staring in a way where he was like furious. It wasn't like he was just like staring to understand. He was staring because he's like, I hate this.
And it's just a full range of emotions, of negative emotions. Like he does at times look like he's disgusted, like he's angry. There is just...
He goes through them all. And
the vibes are negative, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't write down any good vibes.
Speaking of vibes, we talked about once through no sound. Let's talk about sound on with notes. Sound on no notes, sorry. What was that like?
Same.
Yeah, because like I said, the sound adds zero to this scene.
It adds nothing. I do think...
You miss out on some cool guitar, I guess.
Without sound, I was able to dissect things. With sound,
like you just dissected a chicken leg, and
I dissected the chicken.
And they might dissect the flatworm. It's unclear.
It's unclear. We don't know what they're doing with this flatworm.
Dissection. Good biology joke.
That's for biology.
That's why I asked you to be on this show.
Oh.
That top-notch humor you would expect from a student of life.
I think hearing the fan added something for me.
Because that just goes to show you how inappropriate that fan is. I can't get over that fan.
What a perfect scene. We get to see them meet for the second time. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I thought it was the first. It had been a long time since I've seen this one because of the color of the whole movie.
There it is again, the blue bell. Do you think you're going to go back and watch the entire movie without sound? Would you recommend that to the listener?
I'm going to say watch the movie without sound.
Okay.
And then watch the others with sound.
Oh, interesting.
Because they deserve, you know?
Yeah.
Especially the one with the fight. Which one was that one?
That's the very last one. It has the anti. That's going to be one of the last episodes we ever do here.
That's going to be amazing. You might cry.
I'm honestly kind of looking forward to it because, like, not to be too dude guy about it, I watched these movies when I was in college just to see what all the fuss was about. And most of it I was like, yeah, boring, whatever, love triangle. And then, like, every now and again, you get a cool, like, well, vampires are fighting werewolves, and I can't be mad about that. That's objectively awesome. Yeah, that one has, like, some sort of smoke powers. That's cool.
It's good fight.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know. We haven't got to our first fight scene yet in this movie. I don't know how I'm going to handle it.
What do you mean? That was a fight what they had with
oh my God.
The fight of smell.
I'm learning so much from you today. You're so wise.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're a tarot card reader, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that real? You like actually are?
I do.
Okay, cool.
During COVID, I would start pulling cards. I just think it's really interesting because it helps you open up a conversation with yourself based off of whatever the card is. So I don't think it's like predicting the future, but it is helping you.
Well, it's about to help me open up a conversation with you.
Okay.
If Bella and Edward were tarot cards, which ones would they be?
They would definitely be the
And I know nothing about tarot cards, so you can say literally anything and I'll believe you. I think there's a moon one.
There's a moon. Well, there's like the devil. There's the tower card.
Yeah.
And the tower card is when you're resisting change.
Oh, okay.
But it's happening anyways. And I'm
very
going to say
Bella.
that is,
Yeah.
resisting change when it's like, it's going to happen, girly.
Okay, the tower. Got it.
And then obviously Edward is a devil card, not because it means like the devil itself, but because it just means temptation. And that's her
Interesting.
temptation.
And honestly, the level this movie is at with symbolism, that's what they would do. If you had to give this scene a name, what would it be? And this is also going to be the name of the episode, so make it good.
Okay. The scent of a worm.
The scent of a worm.
Or planaria?
The scent of a planary, or
The scent of a flat worm.
The scent of, I think the scent of a worm is pretty good.
Yeah, because it's like the scent of a woman.
That's almost a James. Exactly, I was about to say. I think that's a James Bond title.
Yeah.
The scent of a worm, incredible. It gives you the two main parts. The
That's
scent,
what happened.
The worm. What more do you need to know?
That's why. And and it just taught us so much. It's wild.
Students of life. Phylicia McLeod, if people want to learn more about you, maybe follow you on social media, maybe see you perform a show, what should they do?
Yeah, on Twitter, I am shorty_PHY. On Instagram, I'm laugh_with_fee.
Is it Fee PHY as well?
PHEE.
PHEE. Got it.
You got to switch it up on
You're
the most.
You're different everywhere. You're keeping them guessing.
You got to keep them guessing. You know, make it hard for people to find you.
Sure.
Even though you want people to see your content.
Yeah. If you want to follow this show, you can follow at bitesizedpod_ on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and now Threads.
Okay, huge.
For those of you listening to this episode in 2024 or later, Threads was this thing Instagram did where they tried to compete with Twitter, and we all liked it for about 2 days, and then it was just like Ellen DeGeneres and Taco Bell, and look. We have a Threads account. We've posted once. That's probably going to be it. I'm calling it now. If you're listening to this episode on July 19th, 2024, Threads will be a forgotten memory.
Dang. And I was just getting ready to sign up.
Blue Sky really seems to be where it's at.
I tried to, but you have to like get invited to Blue Sky.
I know. A friend of mine just got a Blue Sky account. And she said that when she gets codes, she'll send one to me. And I'm trying to decide, do I use it for myself or do I use it for the show?
Oh.
It's a tough one. But until we get that figured out, at bitesizedpod_ on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can follow me personally at benaber.com on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll tell you all about the shows I do, like Riff, Chicago's Music Improv Party, Saturday nights at I.O. Our editor is Ben Oxher. Thank you for everything you have to put up with in this episode, particularly, like when I went to get the cat. Our theme song is Mauled to Death by the fantastic band Swimwear Department. Give them a listen wherever you find your music. That is it for this episode of Bite Size. Phylicia, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
And as we always say, as we wrap up every episode,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what we do say because we appreciate our listeners. Speaking of, tell a friend, give us a review. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night or morning.
Leaving my